Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
I'm Mary Dinah. I'm the CEO and founder of the Mary Dinah Foundation. We're working on humanitarian interventions for women and children, specifically maternal and newborn nutrition across conflict regions such as northeast Nigeria, far north Cameroon, and the Lac province of Chad.
Yeah. So, I mean, really vital work that you do there.
Yeah.
And have you seen a kind of like increase in, a lack of access to nutrition in the last few months? And, tell us.
Yes, I mean, that region has had a lot of conflict since sort of it started around 2010 with more an increase in terrorism. Also, we're seeing a lot of tribal conflict and conflict between fight for resources in terms of people searching for water for their cattle, and then of course the fishermen. And so that vital fight for resources, which is exacerbated by climate change, is causing a lot of killings and a lot of problems in those regions. Women and children, as always, are the most vulnerable, and their nutrition, especially when you're pregnant or a baby under 24 months, is so critical. This year has been the worst of all because humanitarian support that was there before, since USAID cuts and other international governments scaled back funding, it's become more of a dire situation for the people in those villages. So we're operating that to support.
So you're operating at a far reduced capacity than you were previously.
We've been quite lucky because although we're actually funded by USAID, and although USAID was dismantled, the US government still kept a few NGOs and foundations to support, and luckily we were one of them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And 100% of our budget has been retained.
Fantastic. So that means you must be doing vital work. So
yes.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
But you were not always in humanitarian work.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you did previously.
Prior. So I'm a hotelier by trade. I have a master's in hotel management. I also have a master's in global business from Oxford University. And I'm a hotelier. I've worked as a chef. I've worked in housekeeping, front office, on a graduate program with Marriott. I started my career with Marriott. And then I rose up the ranks quickly to be head of marketing for all the Starwood hotels across West Africa. And so that's how I started my career. But there's a very strong overlap between that in terms of food and beverage and what I'm doing now in terms of nutrition.
Right.
So the way I see it, initially we were serving fine dining and, in the service industry, but more luxury and opulence. And it was a light bulb moment when I thought, what if I was able to apply this to change lives? And that's what I've been doing since.
Yeah. So let's go back to that light bulb moment. So you're going from serving fine dining and luxury, and then to IDP camps and conflict-ridden regions. What was the trajectory from fine dining to that?
It was, you're right to point out, because it was, even though I say it in one sentence, it was around 10 years of kind of gradually working. So I started at the Marriott, and initially I was helping young students in East London in Bow. I was working with the Marriott in Canary Wharf, and I was talking to them about careers. And then I moved back to Nigeria after school and after a few years work experience, and I started supporting women in prisons. And we helped 250 women in Kirikiri Women's Prison, a very notorious prison in Lagos. From there, I set up one of Nigeria's first ever job centers called JobLink. We raised a lot of funding with that, with many international organizations, worked closely with the government, and then we started school feeding in relationship with employment and jobs, education. So that was how I got into the schools, and I realized there's no food, and then my hospitality, light bulb moment came on and said, well, we can do something with that. As the pandemic hit, we then connected with USAID. And at the time when we connected with USAID, we were distributing 100,000 meals. With USAID, we were able to ramp up to 5 million meals within a few months with their support, with their global financing. And we were also able to operate in conflict regions, again, with their support and their connectivity. So that was the progression. But it's been a real learning curve, and it's always exciting to really push the boundaries of your own, comfort zone. Operating in a conflict region was something I had to kind of think twice about. I really wanted to help the people that needed it the most, but I was quite afraid as well,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of things happening in that region that's very difficult, especially for a woman. But
Yeah, I mean, going into the northeast with Boko Haram and
yes.
all of these kind of like insurgency, that
Yeah.
must have been quite scary.
Yeah, it really was. And, to be honest, even now, we're very, very conscious about security, especially for women. 90% of the people that work with me in those regions are female, because we lead all of the mother-to-mother training groups. In those regions, men are not really free to work with women, especially pregnant women, married women. So we have a lot of women that work with them so that they feel more comfortable. But the security of our staff and our teams is paramount.
Yeah.
And it's very important to abide by all of the security rules. I think that when you have a vision that is beyond you, that is bigger than you, the strength and the bravery comes. So it comes from within. When you decide that, look, I want to help people. Look at Malala's story.
Yeah.
All of the things that she did, just out of deciding that something needs to change. That Superman cape comes on from from nowhere, and you just say, I'm going to do this.
And then
Yeah.
you fly.
Yes.
You fly with it.
Yes.